Hi, I'm Sid, and this is my midterm project on the lyricist, librettist, and book writer Dorothy Fields. Dorothy was born on July 15th, 1904, in Allenhurst, New Jersey, to her parents Rose Harris and Lou Fields. She has two brothers, Joseph and Herbert, and a sister, Frances. She grew up in New York City, as her father was very involved in show business. He was an immigrant from Poland who made his start as one of the most popular vaudeville comedy duos with Joe Weber. He later became a very influential theater producer, producing over 40 Broadway shows and earning the nickname the King of Musical Comedy. Both of Dorothy's parents disapproved of her getting into show business. Her mother wanted to give all of her children opportunities beyond show business. However, 3 of her 4 children ended up becoming successful writers. Her father disapproved of her choice to pursue acting, so he did everything he could to stop her from becoming a serious actress. As a result, she worked for a while as a drama teacher and later as a lab technician. In 1924, she had married a doctor, Jack Weiner. However, their marriage did not last. Around the same time, she met composer J. Fred Coots, who had initially wanted to write songs with her. They wrote a couple of songs together, none of which were published. He encouraged her to keep writing and introduced her to another composer, Jimmy McHugh, who she ended up writing many songs with. Dorothy and Jimmy's first major work together was a musical revue titled Blackbirds of 1928, which was a massive success and kickstarted her career. During her early years, she wrote for several shows, including Cotton Club Parade, 2 iterations of the Ziegfeld Midnight Frolic, and the International Review. Many of the songs she had written for the Cotton Club were later recorded by Duke Ellington. In the 1930s, many songwriters moved to Hollywood. Film was doing very well, whereas Broadway entertainment was facing the brunt of the Depression and new competition with talkies coming into the scene. During this time period, Dorothy worked with Jimmy McHugh to write for dozens of films between 1930 and 1935. She also branched out, beginning to work with other composers such as Max Steiner, Fritz Kreisler, Oscar Levant, and most notably Jerome Kern. Kern and Fields collaborated to write the songs for Swing Time. The movie was a huge success, the song The Way You Look Tonight going on to win an Oscar for Best Original Song. By 1939, Dorothy left Los Angeles after marrying businessman Eli Lamb and returning to New York. She brought with her a new book musical, working with Arthur Schwartz to create Stars in Your Eyes. In the early 1940s, Dorothy had 2 children with her husband, Eliza and David. During this time, she stepped back from being a lyricist and instead worked with her brother Herbert to write the books for 3 Cole Porter shows, Let's Face It, Something for the Boys, and Mexican Hayride. She later wrote Up in Central Park with Herbert in 1944, which was produced by Mike Todd. In 1945, Dorothy had the idea to write a musical about Annie Oakley, a famous female sharpshooter, starring Ethel Merman. Mike Todd wasn't interested in producing this piece. However, Rodgers and Hammerstein liked the idea. She initially was to work with composer Jerome Kern to write the music. However, he died before they could begin the project. Irving Berlin ended up taking his place in writing the score, while Dorothy and Herbert Fields wrote the book for the show, which opened in 1946 and became a smash hit. She worked on many Broadway, TV, and film productions during the 1950s, bringing one of her best achievements, A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, in 1951. This show displayed her ability to provide character-specific lyrics within a dramatic framework. Her last musical of this decade was Redhead in 1959, which went on to receive 6 Tony Awards, including Best Musical. She initially didn't do much theater work for the first half of the 60s. It wasn't until she began work with Cy Coleman, a jazz pianist, to create Sweet Charity in 1966. Being in her 60s at the time, she was the only one in the writer's room from the previous generation. However, she showed delight in using slang and colloquial speech of the new generation, displaying her ability to change with the times. The final show Dorothy worked on was Seesaw in 1973. She passed away on March 28, 1974, after suffering a fatal stroke. Dorothy Fields had very disciplined work habits, working every night, researching, discussing, making notes on a project, and then working 8:30 to 4 p.m. daily. She kept notebooks of copied passages from Dryden, Shaw, and Thoreau. She kept unusual synonyms for common words, rhymes, odd words, and anything else that may come in handy for writing lyrics. When she and Jimmy McHugh were asked which comes first, the lyrics or the music, they both responded, the title. In a quote from her, when she had returned from Hollywood and began working on Broadway shows again, she said, quote, "You're with it in every phase. The writing first, and then all through rehearsals, the out-of-town tryout until you get to New York. When you write a score for a picture, you write it and you leave. You don't see it for maybe 9 months or a year, and you become completely disassociated with it, and you don't even remember what you wrote. That happened to me a couple times. I was amazed at the songs we had written." end quote. Her lyrics had become known for their strong characterization, clarity in language, and humor. Her long career can be attributed to her expansive imagination and willingness to adapt to trends in musical theater. Dorothy was one of the most successful female Tin Pan Alley and Hollywood writers, alongside Anne Ronell, Dana Seuss, Bernice Burkier, and Kay Swift. She wrote over 400 songs and worked on 15 stage musicals and 26 movies during her 48-year-long career. She has been a member of the American Theater Hall of Fame since 1988. In his presidential inauguration speech, Barack Obama gave reference to the Dorothy Fields and Jerome Kern song, Pick Yourself Up.
Starting today, we must pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and begin again the work of remaking America.
Oh no, you can hear my cat. Linnea. Oh, I have to let her out.